unhitched there. So, ask away. You ask me questions, I'll answer.
So I noticed your shirt makes note of something that many people have done. Could you explain your shirt?
Yeah, this is the kind of the commemorative shirt for the 10, we call it 10 for 10, because we couldn't think of anything better. But people who have been to all 10 Pork Fests, starting with 2004 up to this current one, and there's not very many of us. There were maybe optimistically 300 at the first one, probably a few under that, and of those only about 16 or so, and we did the best to make a list that we possibly could. I think we may have missed one or two. Well, we know we missed at least one, but we thought it'd be fun to kind of have a little gathering and you know, put on the shirts and have a fun little, hey, we went to all of them kind of a deal. So I enjoyed that, and so now we're gathering here tonight in front of our cabin, and we're gonna have a team for the Freedom Feud of a few of us, not all of us, and we're also going to include at the bottom of the shirt one other person who could have made 10 for 10 had he not passed away, in memory of Lloyd Danforth. So we'll dedicate our team and our Freedom Feud time to him, and we got a nice picture. He's joined us over here on the table for the little gathering here. So that's what it's all about.
So having been to 10 Pork Fests, how have you seen it evolve? Has it been consistently growing? Have there been consistently more attendees?
Yeah, there have been. The stats are every year gets bigger and bigger. The percentages have gotten a little more consistent, and this year will be the biggest one yet. I think the estimates are around 1,500 this year versus maybe 1,200 last year. I think the single biggest percentage growth was from the first one to the second one, which was a 50% increase from, let's say, about 300 to about 450. But it's grown every year since then, and it's kind of exciting to watch it grow. The fun thing is, for all of us that have been to all 10 Pork Fests, I'm sure my experience is not unique, that there's so many people that we're meeting for the very first time here because, well, they've never been to Pork Fest before. And even occasionally some that have, it's grown to the size that there's always somebody new to meet, which is fun.
Trying to think if there's anything else you want to say. Are there any particular memories you have of Pork Fest? Anything you remember that each year gets better, gets worse?
You know, yeah, I could probably go on all night, which would be kind of fun. I remember the first one. So I didn't live in New Hampshire at the time. I lived in California, and I flew out by myself, which is why my two older kids have only been to 9 Pork Fests. And so one night, and I'm sure that all the rest of them would remember this, one night we got around the campfire, which then was a lot smaller because there were fewer of us. It was over here in front of the Red Cabin, kind of a big campfire thing, and there could have been beverages involved and so on and so forth. And at some point, Tim Condon, who was kind of one of the co-organizers, picked up a big stick. I don't even remember how it got started. You remember this, right? So Tim hands somebody a stick. He goes, "Hey, speech." So I don't remember who it was, but the stick kind of went around, and like whoever had the stick had to make a speech, you know. And people, they just went downhill further and further and further into the night, you know. But that campfire went. I think that went all night, right? I mean, it was pretty long.
Tim called it the Circle of Liberty.
The Circle of Liberty.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, we've tried to recreate that, and it's the kind of thing you cannot recreate. It happened for real once, ever. And, you know, Tim's been back, and he's tried to do that, and it's just like if you force it, it doesn't work. But if it just happens, I don't know how it happened. It just happened. It was one of those moments that'll never happen again, I'm sure, but it was kind of fun and special. I think we remember that. Some people actually didn't like it, but
sounds like it may have been the origins of Soapbox Idol.
It was sort of the precursor, you might say, the spiritual predecessor of Soapbox Idol, but it wasn't soapboxy kind of in the same way. Now, Soapbox Idol isn't always soapboxy per se, but there was inspiration, and there was rousing and slurring and a lot of other things. Well, some of that happens at Soapbox Idol, but I guess it was more forward-looking, positive, inspiring, a lot less ranting. There wasn't very much ranting, either about, you know, us, like things that we don't like about us, or about the state. There was a little ranting about the state, but most of it was, you know, liberty, give us liberty. And the fun thing is, nobody lived here at the time, hardly. You know, less than 50 people, I think. I moved several months later, and we were about number 60 to move. So now we've watched it all happen. And though the Circle of Liberty hasn't happened exactly like that since then, the Liberty continues to grow here, which is kind of fun. It's neat to be a part of that. even a little part.
I was told that even though this is PorkFest X, that there was a precursor event that happened before PorkFest was an idea.
Yeah, there was, and I think we've counted a whopping 5 people that have been to, we could say all 11. Sometimes we call it PorkFest 0, but it really wasn't. The name, the Porcupine Freedom Festival, was Tim Condon's invention. And, he said, hey, let's throw a party, kind of like the last one, and all that. So that 2004 really was the first PorkFest, but there was an escape to New Hampshire that the LP of New Hampshire put on in 2003. I didn't go to that one. But there's a handful of us just shortly off the camera who had been to that, and it was smaller yet. But that's the kind of gathering. So I grew up in Central California. I lived there immediately prior to moving here, and we had an LP there. I was the chair of the Fresno County LP for a while. And if you raise all the flags and send out all the emails, 8 people would show up or something. I could get my dad to come. That'd make 9, and. That was in a county of 800,000 people, and I think when people came here and they were like, hey man, there's like 50 people at Rogers Campground that all care about freedom. How cool is that, right? And the next year it's like, oh, there's like 300 people. Even if it was only 250, it didn't matter. That's a lot of, and then 400, 450 people, 5, 7, 8, 9, 1,000 people, 1,200 people, 1,500 people here. Where does that ever happen? And now, the funny thing is, a lot of them live here. I just met a guy that's lived in New Hampshire for 2 years that I didn't even know. It happens to me all the time. So that's kind of fun.
Cool. Well, thanks, Varrin. You've given us a lot
welcome.
of insightful information about the history of PorkFest.
Well, I hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to many more. I'm kind of waiting for the 20 for 20 shirts. Thanks.